have to like me. That's okay. But with no pride in my city, I have no community. And I need people to just stay engaged, stay involved, do something. Join a board, a committee, a nonprofit, organize a cleanup. Do something that brings value.
Welcome to So That Reminds Me, Reminder Publishing's bi-weekly podcast discussing Western Mass news. My name is Tyler Garnett.
And I'm Dennis Hackett.
And we'll be your hosts for today's episode. On this week's episode, Dennis and I sat down with Holyoke Mayor Joshua Garcia to discuss his new term so far, the city's finances, data centers, recent development news, and much more. But first, Dennis, I know we haven't done this together in a while. How's everything going with you?
It's been good. I just spent a couple of days in Maine. Just a nice little quick summer getaway. Nice. But it's really been quiet. I've been starting to watch a lot of movies like Ryan had mentioned on the last episode. But yeah, it's pretty low-key for me. What about you, Tyler?
Yeah, same thing. Pretty low-key right now. I have a couple of trips planned, or I have a trip planned next month. Going to go to Montana on a groom's party trip, and then I have a wedding, so kind of just the calm before the storm for all those things coming up. But besides that, I know there's been kind of no shortage of news as well, and I know we want to get into our top stories in the region, and I know we'll have a kind of shortened kind of recap, because kind of looking ahead, me, Dennis, and Mayor Garcia, we do cover a lot of topics, so it is a longer episode, so we're going to breeze through these fairly quickly.
Yeah, so I guess starting in my team's communities, over in East Longmeadow, they just buried their 2026 to 2076 time capsule.
Awesome.
They had taken that up. They had, before that, they had pulled up in May the 1976 to 2026 one. So they were burying the new one for 50 years from now as well.
Nice.
And then just to kind of touch on the previous one, they're also going to be unveiling the contents at Pleasant View Senior Center on August 6th at 6 p.m. for anybody that would want to check those out. Then looking over in Longmeadow, they just cut the ribbon on the new Bliss Park playground. So that's another place for the kids to go hang out.
Nice.
All the dignitaries were there for them to cut the ribbon. And from what Peter had said, it looks like a pretty nice new facility.
Yeah, it looked really cool.
Yeah, and then in Springfield, City Clerk Gladys Oyola-Lopez recently had her lawyer had a press conference after some allegations were made by City Councilor Justin Hurst about some corruption over a vote that was on the agenda, saying that she didn't recuse herself. And one of the things that her lawyer, Zachary Vargo, had said was that Hurst had engaged in retaliatory actions of public harassment against Oyola-Lopez for her cooperation with investigations on this. So it's kind of still unfolding a little bit.
Yeah.
I know a couple weeks ago, the city solicitor's office said they weren't going to make a comment on it. It was another one of those things that would be for the State Ethics Commission. So yeah, that's been ongoing a little bit in Springfield over the last month or so. But
wow, yeah. There's been no shortage of news either in, kind of, I guess, my neck of the woods, Chicopee and Holyoke. Holyoke we'll get into with Mayor Garcia some more, but the only thing I wanted to mention was Chicopee Farmers Market is returning after a 1-year hiatus. I thought that was some pretty big news because residents were upset when it took the year off last year due to some circumstances, but now it's returning at the newly renovated hub at Market Square. I believe it's the first and third Wednesday of every month, or Thursday. Don't quote me. But it is on reminder.com to follow up there. And then also just another thing is me and Trent Lavakis, who we had on the last episode. We reached out to new superintendents within our coverage area and districts. I reached out to the Holyoke superintendent. He reached out to Northampton, and we did some features on them. So anyone in those communities who wants to know a little bit more about their respective superintendent can definitely check out the website now to see those. So I thought those were some important stories. But without further ado, I say we get into our interview with Mayor Garcia after a few quick messages.
We get it. You're busy, but you want to be connected to your local community. If you're not reading The Reminder, Western Mass's free weekly newspaper, you're missing out on the heartbeat of your town. Stay in the loop with all the latest buzz, from local stories to community updates and exciting events. It's all in The Reminder. Just log on to thereminder.com and dive into the hometown news you love. To subscribe to receive The Reminder at your home, call 413-788-1316. Don't miss a beat. Your town, your stories, your community for over 60 years. The Reminder. We are hometown news.
Hey sports fans, those incredible action shots you've been seeing in Reminder Publishing's papers? Well, now you can take them home. Reminder Printworks is making your favorite local sports photos available for purchase. The big plays, the big wins, the moments you'll never want to forget. Whether it's your kid's game-winning goal or a hometown champion lifting the trophy, those memories deserve a place on your wall. It's easy to get into the action. Just visit popqr.news/photos and find the shot that means the most to you. Don't let the great memories fade. Get in the game today with Reminder Printworks.
And we are back with Holyoke Mayor Joshua Garcia. Mayor Garcia, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We appreciate you stopping by. We just have a bunch of questions, about things going on in Holyoke, but we wanted to start off, in January, you were sworn in for your second 4-year term. And now, as we're more than halfway through 2026, how do you think the new term is going so far?
It depends who you ask. I would tell you that the results of that most recent election was very favorably. Mm-hmm. And when I say that because when I first ran for mayor, we had a management campaign with clear objectives and priorities as far as systemic changes on how we're managing our resources. Mm-hmm. And throughout the first 4 years, it was a difficult path to carve out with certain councilors who were on the council that were engaging in some level of obstruction for whatever that might be or might look like. And so with those councilors off the council and new councilors who have, I got to say, each have made it a priority to do what it is we need to do to better strengthen controls and manage our resources. And that's what the city of Holyoke ultimately decided. And we've been able to make incremental progress the first 4 years, little changes here and there. Sure. And then now it's like the floodgates opened up and we've been able to move much quicker. With all of that being said, outside of just our priority, which has been internal controls, because we're working from the middle out. If we're really going to keep up with the important quality of life issues happening out in our neighborhoods, it's very dependent on how well we're functioning and as a government and leveraging the revenue sources we need to effectively execute the different neighborhood strategies. And so we have pipeline projects both active and coming very soon that we're very much looking forward for. So when you ask me how's this next term going, I feel really good about it.
Good.
And then kind of going off of that, obviously we're past July 1 now, and the city passed a budget of approximately $213 million. How would you say the FY27 budget season has gone?
It concluded. When you're diving into your budget season, every city and town, right? Like there's a lot of unknowns in that process. It's the municipal budget is not black and white. It's not money going in, money going out the way we traditionally think of our finances. There's a lot of things at play in that process. And every mayor, town manager, city manager, you worry about outlook and changes to particularly those things that are outside of your control. So, things like health insurance and increases, property insurance, transportation, retirement. There's these fixed costs that are a big part of the budget that you don't always get the information when you need it, when as you're going through your budget season and July 1 is right around the corner, and then you get the surprise of what you... So you have to kind of like put your budget together guessing what you think the dollar amount's going to be. And then, you try to be sensitive to local concerns and needs that the neighborhoods advocate for. And then you got the impact to ratepayers. And then you have the state legislatures doing their thing, and however they vote has a direct effect on our budget. It's a big part of our revenue source when you talk about state aid, and 90+% of our school budget's funded by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So it gets a little tricky. But once those revenue confirmations come in from those big numbers, then it's you put in a puzzle together, and the picture starts becoming more clear, and that's when you start breathing a little bit, knowing that you can at minimum balance the budget without tapping into reserves, without having to go for a Proposition 2.5 override or anything like that. Still increases in the tax rate, and so you're now at that point excited that you're able to finally balance the budget and not have to do those things I just mentioned, but then you have to educate the public on why their taxes are going up. And so now at that point, you're dealing with that. But, as a municipal manager, the fact that I was able to get the budget balanced and allows me to put my head down at night. But, I do not lose short of sight of the reality that there is an effect on the taxpayers, the economy, concerns around, the elderly on fixed income, that weighs heavily on me all the time. And so there are a lot of internal strategies we try to pursue to be better, whether if it's expanding our tax base, bringing in new business, trying to re-procure contracts and services to limit increases, or potentially find where those efficiencies are, where you can cut costs. We're negotiating hard at the table with the unions, trying to find ways that we can continue to support our unions and make sure that we're a place of where people can work and have the good benefits, but also trying to identify those things in the contract that might have sounded good at the time, but has a big effect on taxpayers today that might not necessarily be a thing at the moment, right? And so we're trying to navigate that environment. So going back to the question, and I'm sorry, and I think this is how it's going to be, because when you talk about local government and finance, it's not black and white, and that's why I tell folks all the time, you run for mayor, you have to. It's not this pedestal position. There's a lot of pieces to it, and you have to go in with 2 feet and take full accountability and responsibility, and understand no matter what you do is not going to make everyone happy. But I feel good about the budget, where we're going, the strategies at play, and we've made a lot of modernization to our systematic organization, how we manage resources. Breaking news, we just dropped the press release today. We found a CAFO pending confirmation by the city council.
So that,
that was a big priority of mine. I only mentioned it in every State of the City address I've done, and we finally made it. And I can guarantee you right now that with this new system underneath the strategic and careful leadership of a CAFO, the community is going to feel a difference.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of must be reading somehow our script, because that was our next question, was going into it a little bit. We did have that, in February, that the Holyoke City Council did approve provisions to the city's Municipal Finance Modernization Act before you signed it into law. You just mentioned the CAFO, obviously, which is kind of heading this whole department. But, besides that, how have some of those changes kind of affected the city so far?
So the changes that we're seeing today, the first change was achieved, was it last January? The previous January from the last was changing the position from of treasurer from elected to appointed.
Yeah.
That was before we can go and pursue any other changes. We had to make sure that one change was done and the voters passed it, and now we have a treasurer who's elected appointed, because the Municipal Finance Modernization included a consolidated treasurer-collector office. And right now, we're training up our current tax collector to be the city's first treasurer-collector. We have now a comptroller position. The person who was serving as our interim city auditor moved into that comptroller role, and we were able to find a new auditor. So that role is filled. Once the CAFO starts, we look to have the collector now be the treasurer collector, and then at that point, it's a consolidated finance department that would be essentially overseen by the CAFO. And so, we're building an airplane as we fly it. And we won't really start seeing the benefit once it's fully executed and built. However, the team is working very well together. They understand the end goal and have really taken ownership of their roles, and very much looking forward to welcome TJ into this position and continue to do what it is that they were hired to do, and that's to look out for the city's limited resources, and execute laws and make sure that we're functioning correctly under the expectations of Mass General laws and the DLS and the DOR. So I want to tell you about a year or two from now, I'll be able to tell you at that point that we'd have our audits completed timely. We'd have certified free cash, certified timely. We'll have a seamless budget process with forecasting and capital plans at play. So that question, let's put it on a placeholder.
Sure.
Because those are the things that people are going to see. There's going to be a reduction in any opportunity for potential harm or liability that costs money.
Yeah.
And we'll be leveraging new sources that we might have not necessarily tapped into before, and bring in new opportunity. At that point we'd be investing much more strategically in a capital investment through a capital improvement plan. Those are the benefits that people are going to see, which then would have a direct impact to the actual tax rate itself.
Gotcha.
Because things would be operating much more efficiently. The unknowns will turn into better realization, and we can make informed decisions instead of short-sighted from the hip decisions.
Gotcha.
And then kind of going off like the city finances and everything, how has the process of getting the city's past audits up to date? I know they were out for a few years there.
Yeah, the process is going great. We just finally have been able to close we're in 25, 26 right now. Sorry, it's been a long day. We've just been able to close, it was 21. Was it 21? And so the other two are, and that first audit was the anomaly year. That was the most difficult and complicated. When I first came on board, the newly elected treasurer had resigned after just being elected.
Yeah.
and then there was some turnovers and other, the auditor switched hands 3 or 4 times. It was just a nightmare year. We had some counselors that were kind of being obstructionists on their own rights, that felt differently about how they think things should be done or how funds should be invested. But the state came in, thankfully, and was able to come in with a great deal of flexibility to override council obstruction and make sure that we invested in the technical expertise we needed to get those audits done. And so that is on its way and about to be completed very soon. At the same time, we're working on the day-to-day so that we're, getting ready for the closing of the current year or the previous fiscal year, while also getting ready for these massive changes. So that's why I was saying we're building an airplane as we fly it. But it's the thing we needed to do. I've told people all the time, it's going to get harder before it gets easier, because when there's change, that comes with its own challenges. Changing things, how we've been doing things for a long time. There's different stakeholders involved: the public, the council, the internal team. Getting all of those to move forward in one direction is no easy feat. And so that's where a lot of the friction comes in, a lot of challenges. But we're rowing in the same direction, and I'm very excited that these audits are going to be done and we can finally move forward.
Yeah, and I guess kind of to wrap up this little city's finances section we have before moving into some other ones, there's been many communities throughout Western Massachusetts who have either gone through or are about to go through some potential tax override votes. We were just curious, you mentioned obviously you had a balanced budget for FY27, but do you see this as a possibility for Holyoke anytime in the near future?
That's where we all, I tell folks all the time, like, make no mistake, a situation that East Hampton was in, South Hadley was in, can very well happen in Holyoke. In South Hadley, they got a surprise that their health insurance was going up 50+%, right? And, that's a ding in the budget, and that to fund that, it has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
When I first came in, the first thing we did was we did an actuary study to evaluate all options available, and we made a decision to go self-funding at that point, trying to forecast out and understand what was happening. And, those are just the small things that we're able to do. But, things can change. The workforce health situation can change, and what's happening with the economy can change. And next thing you know, you get that surprise email about, hey, your rate's going up X%, and you have to find that somewhere in the budget. I am hopeful because cities and towns across the Commonwealth are on an aggressive schedule to fully fund retirement. And the city of Holyoke, we are scheduled to have done our obligation by 2032, 2033. That means that at that time we'd fully fund our retirement situation, and we'd have an excess capacity of $8 million to the levy limit. Now, that's a big deal. If they're, one of the things that we try to do as managers, and yes, I am an elected mayor, but I still consider myself a municipal manager, is how do you put your budget together in a way that allows you to pivot when there's an unforeseen circumstance? That's the trick for a lot. You want to make sure that in your community you can respond to an unforeseen circumstance. And so you try to, put those provisions at play so when there is a surprise you can pivot and try to repair it so that you don't have to do an override situation. But it's hard to say. I can't sit here and confidently say it'll never happen to us, but I can point to things that exist in our city that I can tell you if it were to happen, an unforeseen circumstance, we're very blessed in the city of Holyoke to have things at play to help us respond to those unknowns and be resilient so that we're not, putting unnecessary pressure to the ratepayers. So that's the strategy for any municipal manager.
Yeah.
And then kind of moving along, looking at Holyoke's comprehensive plan, I know that's something you're working on.
Yep.
How do you just mind providing some updates about that and how that's gone and where that currently stands? I know the first package included 47 updates to different zoning bylaws, so I was just curious how that has come along since then.
So there's the changes to the zoning laws. Then there's the plan in its totality, and I think there's been some lessons learned in that process. The summer was coming, and we knew the council was going to be going on summer recess, and so there were some things introduced earlier on. In lieu of the plan being formally presented, so that we close the gap a little bit. But folks, there was a combination of response, and we're trying to navigate that accordingly. But the comprehensive plan itself, the final draft is being finalized. There's some just last minute touches. And I've reviewed the plan, and it's great. It's a great tool. And that's exactly what it is. The comprehensive plan is not anything that's going to be implemented overnight, nor is everything on there going to be widely accepted. But instead, it's a roadmap, a tool that we can point to and leverage when trying to achieve growth development pressures, when we're trying to achieve the different strategies and improve the quality of life in our neighborhoods. So that's going to be released, I want to say, by September, if not sooner. And once it's out there and people read it, I think it's going to be a lot clearer in its purpose. But there were some things that were shared ahead of time so that we can hit the ground running and get in front of the planning board, in front of the council, as they start coming back from recess, filling up their agendas. Yeah, that was the intent, because there's a lot of things that get into the jacket. Yeah. You got 13 councilors; each one have their own priorities, objectives, and they submit orders, and you have a handful of orders that we're working on too on different things, and they get very busy. So we thought, hey, let's put these things in there now so they can be prioritized when they come back. That was the intention. Yeah. But either way, those zoning changes in front of them, the strategic idea behind them is to help navigate responsible development. Every corner of our city is different. And what we're trying to do is, how do we grow as a city and trying to embrace development, but make sure that they're done responsibly. And that's what those changes are for. I could tell you, when they were first initially submitted, in no way that I think, or that anybody think, that, hey, we should pass all these just because and just do it. We knew that there were going to be changes. Some of them were going to be accepted. Others probably are not. Some of them were going to be probably tweaked a little bit in the process. Public input's going to come in, and the council, there's going to be a lot of negotiating, I'm sure. And that's good. That's a good thing. That's how community development is. You can't do community development without public input. The comprehensive plan had a great deal of public input. But even with that, there are things in it that require more public input, because not everybody agrees with some of the things, and that's the beauty of living in a diverse community. When you live in a vastly different, whether if it's economic circumstances, whether if it's culture, and language you speak, political perspective. That's diversity. And with that level of diversity, you're getting pulled in every direction, and not everybody is always on the same page. But with even all of that, engagement is healthy, it's important, and we want to make sure that as we pursue changes, that level of participation is included, so that, the saying is, a donkey is a horse put together by a committee. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
No, but I like it.
But donkeys are beautiful creatures, right? And so, you got to respect the outcome of a process, because that is what community development is about.
No, that makes sense, and I like that saying. I'm going to start using that for more. And a highly contentious item that recently took place in Holyoke was a discussion around data centers. I know the City Council recently approved defining their use and then banning any future development of the buildings in the city, while also allowing the Massachusetts Green High Performance Computing Center to operate as well. So we were just curious, what your thoughts are on data centers and the possible impacts they could have on the city, as well as, just the ban itself.
So the first thing I want to do is just kind of clarify a lot of what's going on of what happened in Holyoke, because I think there's confusion. I mean, there's the confusion is a wide spectrum of it, but focusing on what happened. So what was in front of the council was not a proposal for a data center. What was in front of the council was an order by a councilor who was concerned about data centers all across the country, and wanted to act, which I think was really good. It was a responsible thing to do, who wanted to get the city to be prepared for if and when a conversation about data centers were happening, because they were lurking around, asking questions and whatnot. And so that was submitted, I think in January, earlier in the calendar year, as soon as she got elected. When the conversation came up on the council and committee and things, it just so happened that at that time, there was a party who was poking around, interested in potentially building a data center in the city of Holyoke. There was no official proposal in front of the council or in front of me. But instead, and they weren't the only ones. Since I was started, I want to say there might have been 3 or 4 data center interest. Just like any other business, they'll come into the community and say, hey, we're thinking about X. What do you think? What are your incentives? How do we, what's the way of the land? And we have a team of people that helps answer those questions and how to navigate the way of the land, so that maybe they, if they were interested, they can pursue. But yeah, so during that time when the councilor had introduced the idea of putting a ban, it just so happened that this party was lurking around. Then the paper didn't make it any easier, because they went and it was headlined "Council Reviewing Data Center Proposal." So then that then freaked out more people, right? And then you put another layer of circumstances by all the information that was being shared about data centers in general, that then created all of this, So it definitely was a public relations and communication issue. Either way, the result was a good one. The other thing that I want to make clear when I say the result was a good one, there was a debate about whether or not it should be called a ban or a data center, but whether if it was a ban or a moratorium. Whether it was a ban or a moratorium, both groups were saying the same thing. People are confused with the term ban. We can't just ban things. It's temporary. It's a ban, but it's still temporary in nature. And the intent behind the current ban, or if it was a moratorium, is to set up our community to put up the bumpers and the parameters and help navigate set the tone, the expectation, so that when there is a party that wants to do a data center. And so so there were a lot of very good, eye-opening things that came up during that whole process. Like, for example, people were concerned about their rates going up substantially. Yeah, let's talk about that. I don't want rates to go up.
Yeah.
There were people very worried about sound and noise pollution. I was like, yeah, I wouldn't want to live next to that either. Like, how do we navigate that issue? There were people worried about contamination to our drinking water supply. And I was like, well, I don't want to contaminate our water.
Yeah.
And so, in that process, I learned that there's no one-size-fits-all situation, that, there are people who are very much interested to embrace this new industry of the future, but we can't go and harm neighborhoods while we're at it. We need to make sure that if anyone was to build a data center in our community, we need to make sure that the parameters are in order. Here's what we need. So it's I'm curious to see what's going to come out of it. There's an order right now in front of the council to put together a committee, a formal committee, and also you got the governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, who has her team helping cities and towns come up with these rules and parameters to make sure that we're not bringing any harm to any human life or to the ratepayers. So, when these bumpers are adopted is when the ban at that point gets lifted, and we can then try to navigate data center interests into our city. But it's the thing about the water supply was a lot of people worried about contamination of water supply. I could see those concerns of what might have happened out west if you built a data center at an aquifer and also you didn't put the proper filters to make sure that you're not letting contaminants seep into the ground, which makes its way. I'd be more concerned if you're building a data center downtown, contaminants making its way to the Connecticut River. Our reservoirs and water supply, we're on a mountain. Our reservoirs in Southampton, I don't see contaminants making its way up the mountain to any of our reservoirs, whether within our borders but instead, the one party that was interested in building a data center, it would have sit between the canal and the Connecticut River. Okay, we're working hard to clean up the river.
Yeah.
We don't need contaminants going onto the river.
Yeah.
If you're going to build something, how can you make sure, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, of course, that makes sense.
I'm not going to support a project that's going to contaminate the river.
Of course.
There was the concern about sound, I think was really good. It drives me nuts to hear air conditioning sounds or the highway.
Yeah.
I can't imagine living next to a data center, right? And so I want to know what buffers companies are putting in place to make, I'm not an engineer, I'm not an expert, so I can't tell you for sure, but I can tell you that if you're going to build in my city, I want that rule there.
Yeah.
And when you're going through the proper planning process, you're going to present plans that have sound buffers. Mind you, we have a data center in town that, there's a perfect example we can study to learn and make sure that however they did it, that they do something similar. I don't know. I'm not an expert in the field, but we want to understand that better. And, the ratepayers, the Holyoke Gas and Electric will never let anything be built that's going to their main goal and objectives is to always protect the ratepayers. And they'll never support a project that's gonna bring stress to the grid. We're an industrial city. When you compare Holyoke to maybe if you're gonna build a data center in East Longmeadow, for example, like we have the infrastructure and the setup to accommodate that East Longmeadow might not have.
Yeah.
And so if you built one in East Longmeadow, for example, then I can see how some of those concerns might be at play because they just don't have the infrastructure for it.
Yeah.
So again, it's not black and white. I think people were debating about it in a black and white situation, but not understanding out west, there's large which one's bigger, gigawatt, megawatt?
Gigawatt.
Giga, right?
Yeah.
All right, good.
There's like large gigawatt, hundreds of gigawatt facilities out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're talking about a 20 megawatt, or the current data center we have is about 12 megawatts,
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Very different scenario and situation. And so I think it's going to be important for all of us to understand, well, how much of a difference is that? What kind of impacts are we going to see with this megawatt versus the gigawatt? What are any of these priorities going to be harmed? Because I could tell you right now, if there is going to be harm, then we're not interested in the city of Holyoke. I am very well interested to continue to explore and pursue any opportunity that helps me achieve growth in my city when it comes to revenue. But also, I'm not willing to poison the well, for the lack of a better term, for it. Because, again, it goes back to our comprehensive planning process. We want responsible development. We're all for new industries and new growth and opportunity, but also, like, there's rules of engagement in our city that we want. We want to do it in a healthy and responsible way.
Of course.
I guess kind of going off of that, our next question on here, in your State of the City address, you had announced that there was a plan for a developer to demolish the long vacant Kmart Plaza site and do a multi-million-dollar investment into that. Like, where does that kind of stand? And, like, obviously that's kind of in that same vein. Like, how important do you think that'll be to bring some more revenue to the city? Like,
very important. Demolition is scheduled for the fall.
Oh, okay.
And I believe the folks have I got to follow up on a purchase and sale on the rest of the plaza, and they're a credible private business that work with a lot of anchor tenants all across the country, and preliminary discussions with them are making us feel very hopeful for what can transpire in that entire plaza. And between the plaza and the Holyoke Mall and that corridor, I think has some opportunity for more growth and development. So yeah, demolition starts in the fall. They haven't shared formally what's going there. But they only described it as what's going to be I believe they said a 180,000 square foot retail store with grocery and a drive-through pharmacy. So you can narrow down your options from there, what that might be.
Yeah.
What makes me excited about this is, like, Kmart's we've been talking about this site for a very long time. There's been a lot of shared frustration, with what has been happening or not happening. And we're just relieved to know that things are moving finally. That might create some debate in the community. I've learned to date that there doesn't matter what I do, there's going to be a group of people somewhere that are going to feel frustrated for whatever is important, what might be important to them, which I embrace. I think that, again, it goes back to my point about the comprehensive plan. Like, there isn't going to be anything that's going to make everybody happy, but I can only have my clear goals, objectives, priorities, and operate within the confinements of the laws. That's my commitment.
Yeah.
Whether if I support a project or don't support a project, I will not get in the way as long as they're operating within the limits of the law of what's allowed. That includes zoning. That includes, protecting our wetlands. It's making sure that you get your permits and you go through the site plan review process with the planning board. And if you need a special permit, I'm sorry, we can't bypass that. You got to go to the city council and get that special permit. I feel like I'm the facilitator in the city, right? I try to stay out of the politics, and I know I'm the elected mayor, so I am a politician at the end of the day. But again, I consider myself the municipal manager. Like I have my laws, my restrictions, my plans in front of me, and I try to make decisions within those parameters.
Yeah.
Either way, jobs, revenue, growth at a site that's appropriate for it. There's a lot of good reason for what is going to be going in there. And I'm just looking forward to see how that can potentially expand out. We did kick off Greater Ingleside 2050 Committee, where we put together stakeholders who have been investing in that part of town. There's been so much planning in downtown throughout the decades. We have plan after plan for downtown, but we never really focused on Ingleside area of town. So we brought together the investors of that part of town, all the stakeholders, the businesses up there, and we've been meeting quarterly to make sure that the city of Holyoke is listening and trying to understand what it is that we can be doing differently based on their experience to support their business and also make way for new industries and new businesses to come up in that area of part of town. So it's been fun to work with that group. And Eric Nakajima has been a breath of fresh air for sure, the new Planning and Economic Development Director. The guy's a professional and certainly has been a very important person to help kind of navigate this potential for the city overall. And we joke. I said, "Look, I hire you, and all of a sudden, you get Kmart Plaza sold." So it's like,
yeah, good thing to start with. As soon as you start, a positive, thing on your resume.
Yeah, we're probably gonna call it Nakajima Plaza, or maybe put a statue up there or something.
There you go.
And some things are great. Like there's been some projects, some stick, others don't, and you move forward, right?
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of speculation and talk about the sports complex. Was that in your notes?
It was.
Sure was.
Yes, absolutely it was. You had
Let's
that comment.
talk about the sports complex.
Yes, go for it. So obviously, a couple years ago, the city announced plans for a new sports complex and home of the International Volleyball Hall of Fame. So are there any major updates about that project?
What we announced was the vision for the sports complex. And the reason why we announced it the way that we did, it's Western Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And, 8% of the Commonwealth's population lives out here. And you have cities and towns up and down the Pioneer Valley that we compete with Boston. And we just don't have the capital and the investment and the resources that we're seeing out in Boston, right? And which then you have cities and towns that need to collaborate. And we do. We all collaborate very well. But we're also competing, right? And, we need to, my intent at the time when we did the press conference the way we did was to send a strong message that Holyoke can't be overlooked. I was very sure that handful of cities were trying to build a sports complex in their community, which is great. Like wherever it goes, it has a regional impact, and it's just wonderful, and we all benefit, right? But I feel strongly it needs to be in Holyoke. We're the birthplace of volleyball. We're an often overlooked city. We're like the little engine that could. And I wanted to send a strong message that we're here to play too. Yeah. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we're gonna figure it out. Yeah. And by the way, we have an investor willing to take the lead. Which we could have not made that kind of announcement without somebody willing to explore it. Yeah. And so that kicked things off. It kicked things off for us really well. It did send a message. Yeah. And it actually led to some spin-offs. Whether or not the sports complex happens, I have a golf course that was bought and invested in that is now destination they invested in the golf course. So if you haven't been lately, it's beautiful. And you talk about golf courses everywhere. They're not you're not seeing that kind of stuff happening. Yeah. And then they took the venue and completely transformed it and made it to destination for all sorts of events. And and the restaurant there is doing very well. The food is great. The Wyckoff, the Heritage Greens.
Yeah.
Among other investments going on around town, like it's been a good partner, to say the least. And yeah, I've been a strong supporter of my candidacy for mayor, and has invested in me.
Yeah.
Within the limit of the campaign laws, and I appreciate the people, Caesar and his family. I appreciate their support of me, and not just their support of me, the support of the city that we all love. So the sports complex, right now it's tricky. It's a lot of money, and you have to do what you can to get the stars to align, so that you can move forward with that kind of investment. It's not like any project. If you go out east in Boston, there's even the millionaires over there. There's no one person taking on foot. They're leveraging federal dollars, state dollars. They're aligning investors and partnerships, and they're getting the banks in order. Right? There's all of these funding sources that are being leveraged before a project. That's what they're doing right now. But it's Western Mass, so we can't move as fast.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But whether or not it does happen, and again, what led up to that conversation when you mentioned sports complex is the fact that there are ideas that are great, and you try them out. Sometimes it comes off the ground, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't, sometimes other opportunities come out of it.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. But we're very much looking forward to see this sports complex actually happen within our borders somewhere. There's been a couple of site locations that have been looked at. Some sites better than others. Very curious to see where this is all going to land. I don't know the details, until decisions are finally made and an actual plan is submitted. That's where I'm going to hold that person accountable, right? It's like once you give me something, we're going to hold your feet to the fire. Just I selfishly want it, but not willing to compromise laws and expectations of the community, right? And so, there will be neighborhood discussions, conversations. If he needs a zone change at all, wherever he decides to go, if it's off of Whiting Farms is a site, and he's even acquired some parcels, and there's been talks about having it there. That's a tricky area. There's zoning restrictions up there that would have to be resolved if he's going to successful do what he wants to do up there. You have a neighborhood that is very fond of the area, as you go through your public engagement process with the planning board to do that zone change, for example, you have members of the council and members of the planning board that are deeply connected with residents in the neighborhood and the community that are going to feel strongly about development there. And so are you ready for that, right? And so you gotta weigh in all those circumstances when making these decisions, because private investment, time is money. Right? And do you want to have an uphill battle? Gary Rome figured it out, found a path, and was able to successfully. Very interesting that Gary didn't see the kind of level. Gary Rome didn't get the level of then the Latino business owner up in the Wyckoff, but that's a conversation for another day. However, there's going to be I appreciate at minimum here anybody willing to invest in my city and invest in me, invest in my community. We have a responsive government ready to work with anybody that wants to invest in our city. And we're going to do what we can to help people navigate to get them to an outcome. And if you can get to a ribbon cutting, congratulations, you made it.
Yeah.
Some people make it, some people don't.
Yeah.
And when you don't, hey, it's not the end of the world. You pivot and you go forward.
Yeah.
But hopefully soon we'll get an update from these folks that are working on the sports complex. And if there's an update, great. If there isn't, hey, we got to move forward as a city.
Makes sense.
I think it's one kind of milestone the city just celebrated is the school's first year out of receivership. Mm-hmm. How would you say that went? And I believe the superintendent, has she started yet, or is she?
July 1, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess kind of just an update there and how things are going.
It's been going great. So although we are in local control and we've achieved some milestones. We hired our first locally controlled superintendent or locally decided superintendent to hire.
Yep.
We've gone through some negotiations with a handful of unions. We still have the bumpers, the exit assurances, up to 2 years. So we've completed our first year, and we're now getting into our second year. And so, we have a good story to share with the Commonwealth so that they can take off the training wheels and give us full control of our schools without the exit insurances. The school board has been great to work with. The current chair and vice chair are very competent leaders that have been doing very well with keeping the board organized and in order and making sure that we're updating our policies accordingly and that we're doing that together and that we're negotiating together with the different unions and we're making decisions in how we're investing in our capital infrastructure, and it's a good functioning government, which was what you want in any healthy governmental organization. In this case, we're talking about the schools.
Yeah.
When I was in the school board, it wasn't a good, healthy, functioning government. My first introduction to politics is when I ran for school committee, and I represented Ward 1 for one term. I was 24 at the time. I'm 40 now. 24, 25 years old. And at that time, it wasn't collaborative. It wasn't united. It wasn't a healthy, functioning organization.
Yeah.
So, when I compare where we are today, and this is by no way because of me. It's not because I got elected and look what I did.
Yeah.
I got elected and I made a commitment and I made sure that we worked together to achieve that together. And we've been able to do that. But when I compare where we are now versus where I knew where we were at the time when I was on the board, it's day and night, and you can see it. You can see the results based on, again, the investments we're making in our school buildings. The school buildings, things were piecemealed. It wasn't like we were able to build a brand new middle school. We reorganized our assets and resources and went away from the K-8 model that I felt strongly was not in the best interest of our youth. And we went back to distinct middle school and elementary schools. I look at all these, point at all these things, and these are things that we've done together and we've progressed. I do want to give a big thank you and shout out to the outgoing superintendent who is now our CFO. I'm so grateful he decided to stick around. Anthony Soto, who's homegrown, born and raised in the city of Holyoke, a graduate of the Holyoke Public Schools, graduated from Dean. The first, even though he wasn't under full local control selected, but I like to say he was the first Puerto Rican superintendent of the school district. And there's a lot of us that take a lot of pride in that. He got us through COVID. He put, and even during COVID, he put money in people's pockets and made sure that the employees were taken care of. He made sure that no one got laid off. And he helped us. If he was an important part back to local control, because it was his recommendation to the commissioner that got us to the next phase of the transition to local control.
Mm-hmm.
So Anthony Soto definitely deserves a lot of credit for what he did for us in this district in our time of history. And I am so much looking forward to work with another homegrown superintendent, Jackie, who, was the principal at Kelly School when I was representing Ward 1, which was my ward at the time. And Jackie was actually a teacher at Lynch when I was a middle school student. So it's really good to see that the school committee that we picked Jackie Glasheen to take the helm and lead the district. So I feel really good in the direction we're going with our schools for sure. No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And I know another milestone too was, the Holyoke Teachers Association getting a new contract agreed to as well. Yeah.
No, shout out to every teacher in the district that stepped up and made sure we protect our kids and, advocated for the contract they had in front of them. That was a big one because when never mind just schools, just government in general, when you're not a healthy government, a well-functioning government, it has an impact on things. And your ability to successfully get through a union negotiation, because dealing with unions is a whole different ballgame. Uh-huh. There's a science behind it.
Yeah.
Very important organization. There's reasons why unions exist, and we need to acknowledge that and support union activities, support their rights to organize and to demonstrate. And you learn in the process. You learn a lot at the table that you might have not knew before.
Yeah.
You get to talk to a lot of people, and it keeps you honest. It keeps things open. It keeps things transparent. But sometimes there's unions that use that for reasons that sometimes are not well intended. But either way, having a healthy government to navigate that process is so critical because it's a house of cards. It can fall apart quickly.
Yeah. And
has a direct impact to the people we're really trying to serve, which in this case we're talking about the kids who have, who are not sitting at that table, right? So we're looking out for the kids for sure. So it's a delicate process, but I'm very proud of this school committee under our newly established controlled governance. They got through it. They did an extraordinary job. We got the best contract, I want to say probably in the Commonwealth, right? Like we did some unprecedented things, and I'm very proud that we were able to work together on that.
Yeah.
And then one of the questions I have, you seem to have a really strong presence on social media, whether that's, being informing residents or kind of lighthearted topics. Speaking of lighthearted, one of the things that I always remember is a picture you posted of yourself as Batman for Halloween. But how important do you think it is to kind of engage the community like that through those kind of avenues?
I'm glad we're talking about this because sometimes I get confused with social media. People say, "Oh, you're not active enough." Then they say you're too active.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, what is it? Like, you want me to share stuff or you don't want me to share stuff? Because listen, I'm all about transparency and accountability.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things that I want to share that I can't share, and it drives me nuts.
Sure.
Like even when we're doing the union stuff, right? It's like, I want to. Let's have open public debates about what you're asking for these union contracts, so the public can understand.
Yeah.
And some, or when there's a personnel matter, you can't talk about personnel matters for good reason, for very good reason. But sometimes you're like, man, I wish I could share this with the public, right? But this is the way I look at it, and why before social media, you had different. It's human behavior and where they're getting their information. Before there were social clubs, it was the churches, it was the local bars, it was going to the cafe, and right, and folks would congregate and they'll talk about things.
Yeah.
And people are doing less and less of that and more on social media platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way I look at it is, hey, it's a tool. It's just another tool in the toolbox that people are doing today. And so I try to use it as much as I can to be in the public eye.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's sharing things that are not great, and that's okay, right? Like, and sometimes it's sharing the stuff that are great.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's some confusion out there about my positive media challenge because it wasn't at all about just saying nice things about Holyoke.
Yeah.
It wasn't about that at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
I'm all for it. Like, when the news share things, it's news.
Yeah.
They're sharing the news.
Mm-hmm.
The issue was the disproportionate sharing
Mm-hmm.
when you compare Holyoke and Chicopee, for example.
Mm-hmm.
In the world of AI, you can get information and assessment much quicker than how much you can spend trying to search your own and put it. But, there are both good things and not good things happening in both communities.
Mm-hmm.
But in Holyoke, it's a lot easier to focus more on the not good things and focus less and not share as much the good things.
Mm-hmm.
So there's disproportionate sharing of the news when it comes to both the positive and the not good stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
But somehow, some way that went, Mayor Garcia doesn't want you to talk bad about Holyoke. He's like, no, share the bad things. That's fine. I'm okay with it because those are concerns that are real, that have an impact to people.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who live in neighborhoods that have a clear concern about things, and I want people to speak up and advocate and share because, that's what community is about. If you see something you don't like happening in your neighborhood, yes, mobilize, engage, share it. And then also, there are also good things going on. Feel free to share that too.
Yeah.
Like, don't forget, we're not just a city of problems.
Yeah.
But, I embrace social media for what it is, and I tried my best to use it as a tool to make sure that I can get information out. We do press releases. I have newsletters. I have email listservs. I have different organizations that I filter information to so that they can. I have quarterly meetings with the local clergies of churches. I have so many different ways to communicate information to the appropriate stakeholders. And then there's social media. And then we also have, telephone robocalls.
Yeah.
But social media is the easiest, the quickest to get information out much faster. And so I embrace it for what it is. And I don't shy away from using it the best way that I can. And it's funny because I'll talk to other mayors. And, people will ask, like, you'll hear other mayors, stay away from social media, it's bad. And I'm the one guy always in the group that says, no, it's not. Like, why? Why would you? Well, it's bad. People, that's community engagement.
True.
Because if it wasn't so before, you'd walk into a social club or a bar, and depending who's hanging out in there and their politics, right, you're going to deal with that.
Yeah.
But I could tell you, like, it's a good way to keep my finger on the pulse, even though it's not reflective of everybody or the entire city. It's just a good way to just understand what might be going on. And a lot of times things get shared with me there where I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. I'm mad too.
Yeah.
Or I didn't know. And I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I didn't know that. Let me call so-and-so and make sure somebody's on it. I won't engage in a back and forth.
Sure.
Because there's usually rabbit holes to nowhere.
Yeah.
But I see people engage, and I look at the comments, and some people are very passionate than others, but if you look past the rhetoric, people are trying to communicate something.
Yeah.
And they want people to hear them. Bottom line.
Yeah.
And government should be hearing and trying to be responsive the best we can. And social media helps me do that in a very unique way. So that's why you see me active. There's a lot of opinions of what people think. He's just trying to get a bunch of credit for that. He didn't do that. He just wants a photo op, or
Sure.
He's he doesn't care about this, but what I find mostly the reactions that I get, you got a silent majority who love what's going on, and they show them by their reactions.
Yeah.
The likes, the hearts, the things. And then you got like 5 people that, argue back and forth. And it makes it feel like the community is mad.
Of course.
Like this sports complex, for example, you can create a group and say nobody wants the sports complex in this lot that's being called Elmwood Forest. Well, I think there's a group of people who don't want it there, and I think that's very understandable.
Yeah.
But the city of Holyoke wants a sports complex, and I can't imagine or believe at all that people are saying no, we don't want this at all in our city.
Yeah.
Then there's other issues around the complexity we see downtown with the unhoused and some quality of life challenges that people see, and the panhandling that's happening all around the region. You'll get a vocal group saying this is bad and the city is going down for it, and it feels like things are bad and Holyoke is like no man's land.
Yeah.
But the silent majority of the city, extremely compassionate and are very pro, hey, let's look for things to help folks and embrace this issue for what it is, and help our neighbors, because that's who we are as Hoyokers. We help people.
Yeah.
We're a compassionate city.
Yeah.
But social media will make it feel like we're not a compassionate city. So it's very tricky that way sometimes, so I hate it. It does bother me to see people argue over things when they're just not communicating well, because it's just very reactive environment, very quick, and sometimes something will get shared and people take it as news, and it's misguided information. It's not really accurate. Those are the downsides of it. But also, like, it's opportunity there to educate. Yeah. And so I'll step in and say, hey, I want to clarify this issue. Yeah. Don't like it. Agree with it. Don't agree with it. Here's what's going on. Here's why we're doing this. Yeah. If there's a project coming, hey, there's a neat project coming. Come check it out. Yeah. Or if there's an infrastructure project, if there's an organization doing wonderful things, and those are the ones that get me the most. I have a lot of good people doing good things that don't get any attention. And I love to show them off. You'll see more of that coming from me than anything else. Yeah. So it's a good tool. I use it cautiously, but it's an important tool to just stay engaged to some level.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Obviously, social media is ups and downs, and people who like it and don't like it. So it's always difficult to navigate. It's hard.
it's getting harder and harder. Yeah. And because we're in a very quick reaction kind of society. The data center situation is another good example. There was so many memes and so many AI images, and it was just misguided. Yeah. True or not true, I don't know. It was just creating a lot of fear, and people were reacting to that, and they completely lost sight of what we were actually doing. Yeah. And it made the hill very steep to climb. Yeah. And then at some point there was this. I had people thinking that I was spearheading the data. It's like, I only met with the realtor because they reached out. I don't even know who these guys are. Yeah. I'm not spearheading anything. So it's, the sports complex, a recent blog just shared what they're calling, self-proclaimed journalists, shared, the politics behind because of how much money was donated to me. It's like, look, I don't make the campaign laws. If somebody wants to make a donation, regardless, I'm following the rules and the laws. Yeah. Folks can, but it's government's always been perceived as bad. I could understand why, because when you look at history and how things were done, you get people in positions with not great intentions, and you can see clearly things that, should be concerning. Every reason why the community needs to stay active, needs to stay engaged. I wholeheartedly support mobilization. When people mobilize, every year we put a holiday tree in front of City Hall, and I always get the same questions when I'm looking for a holiday tree. How come you just don't plant one there? Well, we don't plant one because it's the one little green space we have so that people can protest, so people can demonstrate when they don't agree with something. If they're not happy with a decision, they can go there and protest. Yeah. Safely without being on the street. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I support it because that's democracy. Yeah. Working at its finest. But also like I'm constantly trying to battle the sharing of information. Yeah. And then you got blogs and groups that get created that make it seem like they're the voices of certain things. Yeah. Which is great. Like, great, you want to educate your base, fantastic. Yeah. And sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's like, oh, okay, wow, they captured that correctly, fantastic. So other times it's like, okay, now this doesn't sound right. And next thing you know, I'm getting a bunch of phone calls and emails. Yeah. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, let's calm down for a moment. Yeah. So it's the platform is great when you need it as a tool, but also it can create more work because things get shared so fast and it can get out of control so quick. Yeah. To a point where like it becomes a steep hill to overcome when you're trying to, facilitate a project that is going to be good for your city. But that's democracy and that's community engagement. That's the newest form of community engagement is social media, and you take the end result, whatever it is, and you just keep moving forward. Yeah. You keep moving forward and not take it personal.
Of course, but Mayor Garcia, I know we went through a lot of topics.
I know. I feel like I'm rambling a lot.
No, you're good. We appreciate it. We had a bunch of questions to ask you. We appreciate your time, and the last thing we just wanted to give you an opportunity. If there's anything we didn't mention that maybe Holyoke residents should keep their eye out for.
Yeah, so I could tell you, we 2029, 2030. This is a project that we've been very it's the reconstruction of the entire length of High and Maple. I know there's this feeling like there's no investment happening in the city, in the infrastructure, where there's blight. And that's because a lot of these infrastructure projects, they take up to 10 years before you can finally get it. Yeah. I saw on the way over East Longmeadow getting some nice, when you come off the highway there, that whole area is being fixed up. And I can almost guarantee that's probably TIP funding. And that's the same funding source we tap into when we want to do major infrastructure-related projects. But, right now we have, as we speak, the Center City Connector reconstruction project, which is Ray Street to Cabot, all the way down to the Willimantic Bridge to Chicopee, which is a whole complete streets remodelings with streets, sidewalks, protected bike lanes, trees, tree spits, and rain gardens. The goal is mobility safety, but also it's going to be much more visually appealing. That same funding source is bringing a roundabout to Beach, Resnick, and West Franklin Street. That's coming there in that intersection, and that same funding source is going to bring the entire length of High and Maple. You won't recognize downtown by the time it's done. And also we have some partners, both private and nonprofit investments happening, whether if it's current construction or in the pipeline. Some of the buildings in our downtown mixed-use development, preservation of current buildings, building new and empty lots. So I want to say between now and the next 6 or 7 years, 6, 7, 6, 7. You know what I mean? Yeah. Downtown's going to look a lot different than what people are. It's just these things don't happen overnight, and I just want people to understand that there's a lot of work that is happening, and I want folks to not lose faith in their city. You don't have to like me. That's okay. But with no pride in my city, I have no community. And I need people to just stay engaged, stay involved, do something. Join a board, a committee, a nonprofit, organize a cleanup. Do something that brings value, and just keep fighting for your community, because Holyoke is what we got. There's a lot of good reasons there's a lot of good, in having this community exist, and I just want people to be prideful of their community and stay engaged in any which way possible.
Awesome.
So,
great.
Yeah, well, that sounds great. And, we thank you again for your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
All right. And we are back after our interview with Mayor Garcia. Dennis, I know we covered a lot, but how did you think it went?
I thought the discussion around the sports complex was interesting. I thought it was interesting that they kind of made this plan to put it out there, and then it's kind of just been in the background a little bit. Not really anything has come of it at this point, but I'd be curious to see when or if that comes to fruition and how it does.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's something that a lot of residents have had a lot of questions on, because, I mean, he even mentioned you kind of put it out there so you don't get overlooked. Sometimes plans get to the ribbon cutting and sometimes they don't. Still up in the air now, so I thought that was interesting. And, I also found it interesting, him kind of talking about the data centers. I know that was a pretty contentious thing within Holyoke, and obviously we are seeing a lot of in Western Massachusetts. And
nationally, too. There's a lot of people are really concerned about, like, the water usage from those facilities.
Absolutely. And, it kind of ties in with a question I thought was smart that you brought up, was, his social media presence.
I mentioned it in the interview, but I always think that whenever thinking of elected officials and stuff, that picture of him as Batman from Halloween a few years ago always just stands out in my mind.
It's hard not to. And, I didn't mention this on the podcast, but when he was here, but, I cover Holyoke and Chicopee, so I constantly look at his social media because he does talk a lot about important things, good, bad, feel good things going on, that either I'll follow up with him or I'll follow up with that specific organization, a community member, to kind of have a story. So that really helps me out a lot. But obviously, he touched on it. There's goods and bads of social media. So I'm sure that's hard to navigate.
Yeah, somebody who's mostly off social media.
But yeah, overall, I thought it was a good interview. He had a lot of information, especially if you're from Holyoke. I think it's worth the listen. And obviously not to, it is a cheap plug. Most of the stuff we did talk about, I have wrote about in the past. So anyone looking to learn a little bit more about what Garcia said can definitely check out all those past stories at thereminder.com.
Yeah, and I think with that, we're going to wrap up another episode of So That Reminds Me. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Thanks for listening to So That Reminds Me, produced by Western Massachusetts news source Reminder Publishing. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, find the latest news at thereminder.com, and follow Reminder Publishing on Instagram at Reminder Publishing, on X at The Reminder MA, and on Facebook. Reminder Publishing, we are hometown news.